Hello, ladies. Hello, lovely. Sorry, I got distracted. I was deep diving into some research. Okay, so after Monday's conversation about belly fat and what's actually happening in your body, I know a lot of women are sitting there thinking, okay, that makes sense, but why is this happening to me? Because it's one thing to understand it, and it's another thing to recognize it in your own life, in your own body. So I asked a question in the group yesterday. Actually, I haven't checked later. And so many of you said your weight is going to your middle and that what used to work isn't working anymore. So I did check last night. I checked this morning. I'm just going to check what the latest uh, graph or poll is showing me. So, and there's also people who reached out, obviously. Yeah, so most of my weight seems to be going in the middle. The next most common answer was I feel more puffy, inflamed than I used to. If you haven't seen that poll and you want to give me a vote, please go back and have a look at it, because all of these polls that I put up and questions that I ask, the more of you that get involved, the more of you that answer, it gives me a feel of what you need most. If I don't know what you're struggling with, I'm guessing. So the more you get involved, the better it is for you in the long run, because then I can address and emphasize what it is you're wanting to know. Okay, so let's get started. Let me tell you about a woman that I see all the time. She comes into me and she says, I haven't actually gained that much weight on the scales, according to the scales, but my body has completely changed. Yes, there's the woman that says, oh my God, I've put on 18 kilos in the last 12 months, or I've put on 12 kilos in 3 months. But there's also the woman who the weight, the number on the scales don't change that much. It's only a couple of kilos, but their body shape has changed completely. Clothes that feel tighter around the waist, stomach that feels softer, sometimes harder, just feels different. She doesn't feel like herself in her body anymore. And the most frustrating thing is she's not doing anything wrong. She's eating relatively well. This is what I hear all the time. I eat well, right? She tries to be consistent and she's making an effort, but her body is responding differently now to how it used to. And this is where the conversation, or sorry, the confusion comes in, because she thinks, oh, if I just eat less, how long does that last? If I just try harder, how long does that last? If I just get stricter, how long? Right? But the harder she pushes, the less her body responds. And it's true. And I know that some people are trying the GLPs, it's the peptides, the injections, the Ozempic or the Wegovy. There's a few different ones out there now. And some women get some results for some time. Unfortunately, there's the side effects mount up, the impact that it has on your gut health, the impact it has on your muscle loss, the impact it has on your metabolism. Right? You've got to do a lot of catching up. So you might shift some weight, but there's a lot of catch up you have to do to compensate for that. But I don't want to digress. I might actually do a whole talk on GLPs. Okay, so this is what I want you to understand. When you're the person that's body shape is changing, and as most of you answered on the poll, it's around that midsection that it's where the weight seems to be accumulating. And as you say, you're trying to eat clean, you're trying to move your body, you're pushing harder, you're trying harder, but I want you to understand this isn't about willpower. And it isn't just about calories. This is about trying to stay stable in a system that's under pressure. So what's actually happening? Your body is dealing with changing hormones, more stress than it used to, used to handling, disrupted sleep, subtle insulin resistance, and all of that is sending a message to your body. Store energy, don't release it. The more we are in that state of lack of stability, the more the body's thinking, oh, I'm going to have to store fuel. And where does that show up? That spare tire. And not because it's random, but because this is where visceral fat accumulates. And that's what I was talking about on Monday, right? That it's not just belly fat, it's visceral fat. It's metabolically active fat. So what does this look like? How does it appear? It might look like weight going around the stomach first, a deeper, harder belly, feeling puffy or inflamed. That was the second most common answer. Cravings increasing, energy dipping mid-afternoon, waking at 2 to 3 a.m. And you're left thinking, why? Why is this happening and why now? Your body hasn't stopped working. It's changed its priorities. Remember, your body wants you to survive. That's its key goal, to keep you alive. So it's going to do what it thinks it needs to do for that. So I want you, instead of asking, how do I just, I get it all the time, how do I get rid of this belly? People ask me every day, I would get asked that question, how do I get rid of my belly? What I want you to ask instead is, what is my body responding to? Because when you ask that and when you get that answer, when you get clarity on what your body is responding to, everything changes. And not only does everything change, everything becomes a lot simpler. So let's talk about your situation, because I know some of you are thinking, I'm going to go through the frequently asked questions, the FAQs. Why is all my weight going on my stomach now? Because your body is shifting fat storage patterns in response to hormones, insulin, stress. Next common question I wrote down, why isn't eating less working anymore? Because eating less increases stress on the body, destabilizes blood sugar, makes fat storage more prominent. Is this just menopause or something else? I could answer this so many ways, but the idea of my lives here, to keep them short, a bit more succinct and relevant, okay? It's not just menopause. Menopause reveals underlying patterns like insulin resistance, which we've spoken about, like inflammation. There's different indicators. Now, we do not want to wash everything and put everything under the heading of menopause, because we could be missing core root problems that need to be addressed. Right? So we do not want to put everything under the one heading. The hormones shifting could very well be your main problem, but not hers. There could be that insulin resistance. There could be inflammation. There could be thyroid issues. Right? There could be adrenal cortisol issues. As I say, life creates the cracks. Like, think about layers, right? We have lots of layers over time that those layers create or build on top of each other. right? And menopause might be that straw on the camel's back, that all those cracks and those layers are amplified, the torches on them, and that's when we see all the things that have been building up over time. And that's one of the problems with men are washing everything, that we're not seeing that those cracks were already there, and the reason for those cracks starting in the first place needs to be addressed. Okay? And the next question is, can I actually lose this weight? And the answer to that is yes. Visceral fat is actually responsive, but only when the system is supported properly. Another last question. Why do I feel like my body is working against me? Because it's trying to protect you, not sabotage you. As I said, our body's key message is survival. So it's reading the data, it's scanning. What do I need to do to keep you alive? Okay. And this is why trying to fix things by dieting harder, by skipping meals, by pushing yourself more, often makes things worse, because your body doesn't need more pressure. We've got, goodness, they've got enough pressure in our lives, haven't we? It needs more stability, and it also needs the order, the systematic order of healing. So if this week has made you realize, between Monday live talk about what's happening and the difference between belly fat and visceral fat, Tuesday I gave you an example of a lady I worked with, Wednesday I gave you more written information, yesterday I put the poll up to see what most of you are struggling with, and obviously today, if it's starting to make you realize that what you're doing isn't working for you, and if it's making you realize that just another diet is not necessarily the right answer, or more fasting or more restriction, or if it's made you realize that you need to actually support your body properly, that's exactly why I created the 28-day metabolic 28-day midlife metabolic reset, because it's about stabilizing your system, supporting your metabolism, helping your body feel safe enough to respond again. Your body isn't holding onto weight for no reason. It's responding to something. And when you understand that, you can change it. You've got this. I've got you. If you've got questions, let me know. I hope you found this informative. I'm just going to check, because Facebook doesn't always show me if there's anyone commenting. Not yet, but there are a few of you here live. All right, ladies, I hope you found this really, really informative, and at least understanding why your body shape is changing. There's a lot more nuances and things about it as well, but with the estrogen receptors, fat cells, all that sort of thing. But let's just try and break it down into bite-sized pieces of information, so it is more easily digested information that is relevant and also helpful. All right, ladies, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. See you next week.